Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Genius Days. Now with our special guest Hanso from Capella aan de IJssel from the Netherlands. Welcome to the call. And as you've noticed, Alejandro Acosta isn't present because of some family matters. I wish him all the best and of course condolences. And before this, we started a bit later because, instead of having a moment of silence, we think, well, let's have a moment of joy. Let's have a moment of joy, appreciation. And in the topic of momentum, spread the love, spread the joy, spread good vibes. Because I believe that's what Alejandro would have wanted. And of course, his deceased dad. Now, of course, on the topic of momentum, Sumi Tiriji, owner and head coach of the Flowstone Academy and all around. Kitty Manifester. Hit it, hit it away.
Awesome, man. So yeah, the topic of momentum is very interesting, right? Because it's what we build, we generate it within ourselves. Like high vibrational energy creates more high vibes, and low vibration energy creates more low vibes, right? But there's environments and situations and people that already have low vibes. But in order to get higher vibes, we have to generate it ourselves, right? And so this idea of momentum is really powerful. And basically, what I wanted this episode to be about was how we can create a movement culture, right? Because we have people like Ido Portal or certain individuals who are very movement mechanics almost in a sense. They are looking at movement anatomically, biomechanically, biologically, psychologically, right? They have all these different ways of looking at the body. And I think it's very interesting to start to create a movement culture. I mean, if Ivan were here, he would talk about this, I'm sure. Maybe he'll pop in, but the idea of basically creating your own workouts, right? And being like, okay, I've seen Ivan like create random yogas in like a day, and just like own it and embrace it and be like, yo, this is exactly what it is. This is what's working on this tendon and this muscle. So once you know about your own human body and you're intuitive about it, you can start to form your own movements. And by knowing certain movements, there will be a certain kind of, hold on for 1 second. Okay, so this girl agreed to my request, just saying. But yeah, in terms of like having certain movements, you want to maintain a system. Like, how can I create a system for myself that I'm working on a specific intention? So let's say that you want to work on primarily agility. You got to understand that, hopping over tires or like all these different, explosive movements, you want to implement on those and understand that, okay, now that I have this thing in mind, I want to work on stamina or whatever. Now you can use a combination approach. And I always like to use like mind, body, spirit approach. So just because you're doing a very intense, explosive, like powerlifting, you can still use a Qigong approach or a kind of approach that's much more regenerative and healing, right? In the time that you're recovering, you can still use movement in a sense to be able to get rid of that soreness or that lactic acid buildup and all these different things. But Ryan, tell me about your perspective of creating a movement-based system or a culture or maybe an approach to fighting or let me know what you think, bro.
Well, one inspiration that I did not expect was my daily cold shower routine. Now, this is, of course, inspired by what our mentor Guru and, of course, the owner and founder and brother of the IMC Academy, Lions Den, and I believe now Brotherhood of the Beast. His cold showers inspired me to put myself out. Now, I knew that I would inspire people and get haters and blah, blah, But what I did not expect is that people actually not only copy me, but actually delve deeper into the theories of the Wim Hof Method and apply that and actually seek Wim Hof and actually do the fucking work. And that made me realize that just by showing up consistently and demonstrating your strength, you can not only make a difference for yourself, but also for the world. You are, at the end of the day, the pillar that holds up your life. And if the pillar is strong, it can hold up way more. Now, I don't know how to create exactly a movement nor a tribe necessarily, but I do know by showing up, by doing the work and demonstrating that you have the capabilities to do whatever, be it in taekwondo, business, martial arts, with pickup women, you name it, stocks, bonds, and also supporting the ones around you, with that specific intention relating to support and, of course, the topic at hand, be it money, women, fighting arts. You now have more than a friendship. You have a tribe that is built on trust, love, respect, and, of course, skill. Even within business, you need it. A team, a department, a company is nothing more than a big tribe with sub-specialized tribes. You have your marketing, you have your sales, you have your call centers, the IT department. They're all very important components of your tribe. Everybody has their specialization. And in order to create such a tribe, you need the people for it. You need to start inspiring, start gathering people. And it starts with the intention and the vibe. What is your intention with such a body of mass of people? Is it the money? Is it the money you want out of it? Is it to truly bring out a message? Is it to create awareness? Is it to simply put yourself on the spotlight and inspire people to, get out of their comfort zones? What is it? And then you start to see, success leaves clues. At the end of the day, aligned data strategy is not simply about the data. It's not simply about the strategy. It's about the whole. And the expression of it then becomes putting myself in a very uncomfortable position by becoming, an entrepreneur, risking myself to be ridiculed, risking to be shunned, etc., but also putting myself in a position where I can open new doors. And thus, you have the movement culture. That's why you see me posting a lot on the phase 1 of the beasting process. I challenge anyone for the next 30 days to do these things. Get back at me, blah, 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 blah. And if anyone does it for 30 days, they will see results. And then we start to see, let's say, Conor McGregor. I never expected Conor McGregor to have a connection with Ido Portal until he demonstrated why he does some trainings. And thus you have a lot of the MMA community, as far as I know, be a part of it. And it makes sense. There are a lot of missing elements.
Yeah.
What's up, Sweet?
I was saying, yeah, or they get incredibly influenced by that style, right? Because he's using like a sense of combining dance and all different kinds of movements and not just fighting, right? So it's like a mix of all of these different styles. And I think that's what really MMA did, was like they were like the mix masters, right? They were like the DJ, these different like styles, and they brought it all together. This chick on the podcast, isn't a podcast, it's like an IG live. She told me that I'm like a web weaver. And I was like, yeah, I'm Spider-Man. There's like a little clip. So basically, like, to understand that we are web weavers, you know what I mean? Like, you have a dance background. You were dancing salsa and like, these different, what was the other one called? The one with B? Bachata.
Salsa, bachata, merengue, kizomba, zouk.
There we go. There we go. Yeah. So you have all these the dance background, but then you have the fighting background, and now
Yeah.
you have the beating background. Now, if you can combine all of those together, you're gonna create some unique movements, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that because they can't see that because they don't have your experience in life. So that's what I'm saying is like that uniqueness is what gets people uniqueness plus the usefulness makes you prosperous in your business.
Yeah.
It's just being unique and weird, like right, like when Elliot Hulse introduced bioenergetics in the beginning, everyone was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Is he having convulsions? Like there's some kind of exorcism going on, right? But now it's like everybody's talking about it, right? William Reich has been resurrected almost through these teachings. Manu has been resurrected through Arash's teachings, right? In this way. So keeping
and
that
thus
link.
he's been immortalized.
Exactly, man.
And isn't that the same with songs? Isn't that the same with expression, period? There's a thing with martial arts specifically that has a certain power, a certain prowess that once you've been through the grind, let's say, that is martial arts, that is competing at a high level in martial arts, be it MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, whatever, you will find a deeper self that you don't or never thought you had. It is the reason why movement culture is still tribalism. Because if I did a lot of yoga, I could associate way more with, let's say, Yogi Chris, who is a yoga master. If I did the expression of welding and sword making, I would associate way more and connect on a deeper level with Terry Council. But because we've both been to the grind of martial arts, we associate deeper on that level. And thus we start to see a pattern, because finding patterns is my background as a profession. Once we start to analyze this, we start to see that tribalism has a movement. Look at the Wim Hof Method. His expression of movement is surrendering to the cold and becoming its master. The whole idea of Amavati again. To go through hell and to one day become its king. No, it's to go through hell, camp in hell, in order to one day become its king. And that is what the Wim Hof Method really is, because at some point, you will have mastered it.
Yeah, man, Wim Hof is a great freaking example of that because he has created a movement culture for sure. He has his own method, bro. You know what I mean? It's like a method of breathing. Like that's just freaking like that's just trademarking a style of breathing. Like that's unique by itself. You know what I mean? So the fact that he has terminology, he terms it forced mindfulness is what he calls it, right? So general mindfulness is like, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I touching? You know, it's your senses basically. Forced mindfulness is like, I'm hitting the cold water. There's nothing else in my mind but the present moment.
Yeah.
Right. So forcing that mindfulness, he's putting people into presence super fast. And you can do this with, touching a hot drink, eating something sour or spicy, squeezing an ice cube. I don't know, like jumping up
eating
and down.
chocolate, even M&Ms that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, man. Like you could use so many things to force that mindfulness, right? And this is great for people with panic attacks or who are freaking out in the moment, right? Where they don't know, like, because they're in the future, they're in the past and the future. They're like worrying about what's going to happen or what has happened. But if you can force mindfulness with the cold water or whatever you're using, it's just a quick way to get back into presence. So I love that Wim Hof method because of his knowledge of breathing and breath work with the movement. And yeah, just the culture that he's building from that.
I remember the first time I came into contact with the Wim Hof method was when I was doing my internship at one of the high-end financial institutes, financial companies, I believe, Accenture. And it was this funny white dude that just loved walking barefoot for some reason. And it was like all about this random Wim Hof guy. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why would I put myself through this cold? And the more I started to research the Wim Hof, the more you start to see that we're all going through a very similar process of, if we have a method that is considered mad, we have to test it. And we love testing it. I remember him setting a world record on how long he could endure sub-zero temperatures, and then listening in on stories on him going to one of the poles. I don't remember whether it was south or north, and him just taking a 100 or 200-meter dive because he accidentally went past it, and he's still alive. And then it gets even better when he walks barefoot with shorts, no shirt, to reach the top of the Himalaya. And you just ask yourself, why would someone do that? And why do I feel so inspired to do better in life? And all of this because, he had a deceased wife. And thus we have a very interesting story teaching that I read a lot. It is, it is not the events that hurt. It is how we view it. And he decided to take a very unfortunate event and go beyond the pain and seek comfort in the discomfort.
Yeah, man, he's an alchemist. Like, he's transmuting that pain into power, right? And
yeah,
that's so powerful. How we're talking about Wim Hof, but man, remember our first ever Genius Days? We had a Wim Hof like certified guy who came in, like a breathwork.
Yeah, I remember him.
Right, so it's like coming full circle in a sense now, where it's like,
I know what number episode are we are now? Because I don't remember.
Don't even know.
You never number these things.
No, I stopped adding numbers and because I added it all to one playlist now.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, the first one ever was with that guy, I remember, and Coley was still with us, remember? So yeah, like it's interesting to just reflect back on that, like how far we've come with Genius Days, and it's kind of cool. But yeah, Tori Hanzo, do you have anything to ask us? Any questions, or if you want to chime in with something that you've realized about movement cultures? Can't hear you, brother.
Did it for the first time. Like, can you see like a direct change? Like, I had a direct change, like since like the third cold shower I took with the Wim Hof Method. Like, it completely changed my life. Like, I don't know how you guys what your process were.
Mm-hmm. Your microphone's a little bit choppy. Are you getting that too, Ryan? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was you guys, but wait, let me just. Do you hear me now?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
What? Yes. The process of taking cold showers, like, could you really see like the effects of it like immediately after it, or was it more like a gradual thing with you? Because with me, it was the I think the third or second cold shower I took, like it made me see the world totally in like HD almost. Like it was I had a great awakening with the cold showers. Like, who would even thought like just shocking the system a little bit, that would like change your outlook on life.
For sure, brother. Like for me, I noticed that I think it was like a week for me to really start to get the effects of it. However, the first few times I did notice that man, my body was super numb to like experiencing any kind of shock like that. So I don't think I noticed it very much. It was like very intense at first, but I think that numbing effect went away after a while. And yeah, it started to, like you said, it started to like make things much more brighter, clearer. And also you almost felt more into your body, right? So you felt into your bones, your muscles, your tendons and things like this. So yeah, there's also a very mindful effect of like, yeah, the cold water hitting you, but now you're being conscious of the fact where that water is hitting you on your body, and it just makes you very present.
Yeah, definitely. Like one tip I would give everybody, like first step is like to um, seek the uncomfort, and then the second step is like actually facing the fears. Like if you got like bodily sensations and you want to like shrink up a little bit, like fuck this, and to just actually to make it worse, like in your mind, you want to make it even worse than it actually is, like trick your mind in like, oh yeah, like you want it worse, like I'm gonna make it even worse for you. Like you know, you can play tricks on your mind. Like you can either ignore something or you can really delve deep in the sensations. And if you really face the fears and really go head on, you you can use that into your day-to-day life. Like you can see stuff happening about you, or you feel like you're, I don't know, maybe in public transport and you get a little bit of social anxiety or something, and just to face it uh, uh, and to trigger whatever it's triggering you, and just dialing up all the way to 10 and saying like, focus. Like if you're gonna talk to your system, like if you're gonna talk, because we're all like masters of our own body or mind. That's how I would like to see myself, and to really make it worse. And like it sounds bad. Like it sounds like, oh no, I'm gonna I don't want to do this. It's just, why would I torture myself? But trust me, brother, like if you do that and you really leap over your fears, like you can conquer anything, man. Anything. Like there's nothing that you will fear. Like you will seek out the fear, and there's nothing that can stop you. Business, woman, anything.
I agree. I agree. I I don't know how long it took when I got epiphany, but one epiphany was it's all medicine. Be it for my soul, be it for my being, be it for my body. It's all medicine. It's all everything that happens, good, bad, whatever. I can speak it, I can think it, I can alchemize it into something that will transform me into something better, to the point where I had to discover how much more cold showers can help me by actually documenting it on a daily basis. So yeah, I absolutely agree what you're saying, Tariq. If you can take the pain of a fucking winter's cold shower after it has rained or snowed in the fucking Netherlands. Yeah, I know you remember. Man, those days sucked.
Oh, I love those days.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah.
I'll
I
I'll
can't wait
never.
when the winter comes again. Like God, like running outside without a t-shirt, like, in shorts. Like that's the best thing ever, man. Summer is just weak shit. Like
Yeah,
you
that
need
is
to
true.
really
That is
find,
true.
you really need to
I
find the well. Netherlands is quite, yeah. It doesn't really get that warm. Like I know in America and India, you got crazy extreme weathers. Like it fluctuates radically, but like here it's quite mellow. Like yeah,
yeah.
it's nothing really to worry that big about. Like only the winter. Uh, there is a slight chance of danger if you could if you were gonna survive in the Netherlands, like winter isn't that big of a problem. If you want to survive in the nature in India or
That
Alaska
is
or
true.
America, like it's a different thing. Like we really have it good here. We really have it good here.
Yeah, that is true. I
Yeah.
mean, you could still get lost in the woods here and make it back. You won't. I don't think you'll make it back in India with all
No.
the fucking tigers and possibly
Yeah.
jaguars and crocodiles and bandits and shit. Nah, I don't.
The
India.
most dangerous animals here are cows. So.
Well, yeah, I don't want to fight a cow. Fuck that.
Definitely, man. There's cows always blocking traffic here. It's quite wild. It's quite insane how, like, like nobody moves. Nobody honks. They just wait for them very calmly. Very just like, okay, we're just waiting for this cow to cross, or like it becomes weird, like just that process. But anyway,
But about
talking,
that movement, that's a movement culture, technically, yeah.
yeah,
That is like decennia on millennia or whatever. But here's my question, because at the end of the day, that is somewhat of a movement culture traditionally. Are they not supposed to touch the cow? Can they not pet the cow? Can they drag the cow?
yeah, they do. Also, they don't directly strike the cow, but they definitely like whip the air so the cow moves in a sense. And they do that. Yeah, I've seen people do that. But it's just the sacredness of milk, and I don't really understand that dairy obsession really. However, I think it goes very, very ancient. It's a very, very ancient custom that just was passed on and on and on and on, and is a very tribal thing again, right? So tribes create those cultures, those movement cultures, and yeah, it's just like taking raw eggs. How we have that in the beast process. It's like
Yeah,
not everybody's going to do that, but
yeah,
if you created a culture around it, you're more prone to step into certain behavior traits.
yeah.
So I think that that idea, Tariq, that you were talking about of like stepping into the kind of that wildfire, like that feeling of like cold and just like intense shock to your system. It's almost like a metaphor for life, right? In a
Yeah.
sense, doing the most difficult thing in the morning, like Brian Tracy, eat the frog type shit. So it's like when you do that cold shower in the morning, it's like whatever little shit that you get throughout the day, you can handle it from then that point onwards, right? And I used to have my old social media account was called That Splash Life, right? Because the whole metaphor around that splash life was like you splash into the complete deep end, like you just completely go in, you don't question it, right? And you just freaking you go all in, you commit, right? And I think through this IMC brotherhood, we have a symbol of commitment to this process of devotion to it. I remember, I don't know if you remember, Tariq or Ryan, the time that AZD was speaking about the story of Bodhidharma and the story of Heike, why we go like this as IMC monks is the fact that Heike cut his hand off as a symbol of commitment to Bodhidharma, right? So instead of going like this, right, the namaste, it's like one hand. And you see a lot of Shaolin monks do this as well, right? It's a very profound gesture, profound symbol, right? Just think that symbol of commitment adds to the storyline, which is that movement culture. So symbols, I think, and images are very important. Like visualizing, for example, you're a freaking like polar bear. Yeah, exactly, that too. But like if you're a polar bear and taking a cold shower, it's not going to hit you as bad, right? You're just like, it's just normal. It's just a normal day, right? Because after a while, you feel like, oh, it's just not even cold water. It's just water for me, right?
Yeah.
Certain point. So, yeah, I think that this idea of coming up with a theme or a concept or a genre or a motif, whatever you want to call it, is very powerful for a person's movement culture. Like I know Ido Portal, he talked about play. Like adults don't play anymore. I mean, when we refer to adult play, we just think of sex, right? We don't think of like, like actual
You
like
bet we do.
actual playfulness, right? Like animalistic movements and like jungle gyms and like all this kind of stuff. We don't tap into that anymore. And so what he was doing
Well,
is
we do tap into donkey style, but that's beside the point. I get it. But
yeah,
continue.
right? Plays, yeah. But it's animalistic, like this idea of like, okay, there's this Edo Portal movement, which is almost like sport. It's almost like a sport, right, in a sense. And then it moves into like animal flow. Yogas, there's like Vinyasa, there's like 100 different types of yoga, bro. Like you don't even know, like there's 100 different meditation, and it's like the list keeps going onwards, but it's like what really creates a culture is the people around it, right? Like for instance, they stopped calling Bikram yoga, they stopped calling it Bikram yoga after he got that scandal or whatever, right? They started calling it hatha or hot yoga or whatever, right? Like they just changed the name because of that. Like, so the culture depends on almost like the tribal leader, in a sense, that moves that culture forward.
Health, wealth, relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all part. As I've been studying different leaders in my spare time, what I have found is it's always a combination of health, wealth, relationships. And even if it's, I think I have his book here. Let's see. Great, you can't see it. Elon Musk, The Insane Method. It's all about health, wealth, relationships. You don't want to admit it, but I have no idea how old he is. He just looks, he's always looked 30 to me. He's always looked 30 to me. He might be 60, I don't know. But it's a clear promotion of...
With these biohackers nowadays,
you never know. Never fucking know.
You never know.
You might be dating a 60, 70-year-old granny, and with all these Asians, you don't know. You don't know.
So the fucking hormones and shit are
hormones, whatever. Man.
Yeah.
But it's a continuous, at least 3 points of health wealth relationships that I keep seeing. Yeah. Be it Joe Nicasio, be it ACD, be it our parents that are owners of companies. It's always that. Every time I go out with my... What's up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so every time I go out with my dad, it's always topics on health, wealth, relationships. It's always, what are you eating? Oh, I'm taking extra danger, what business deals, blah, 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 blah. And of course, how's the family? How's the women? It's always that. In the last 30 years that I've been alive, this is a constant. And leaders become not only those that have mastered those three, not only demonstrate expertise in those three areas, but also help inspire and actually guide people in those three areas, regardless of the topic, even if the topic is simply movement. Because movement can lead to better health, logically, but also better wealth, because health is wealth. But also, if you are fitter, you have more energy to work longer, work faster, work more intense, and also have the clarity of mind to do the work. And of course, with a great body comes great sex, so the relationship issue is solved.
You solved the world hunger, sex problems. You just solved everything, bro. It's my
God. I should get paid for this, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking as you were speaking, right? This consciousness of growth, right? I see leaders who are constantly refining. They're never done.
Yeah.
They're never, so it's like that process of just progression. And health, wealth, and relationships, these are three areas that are linked to survival.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, all of them relate to our resourcefulness, like our ability to be adaptive and like survival-based creatures, right? So like once we move, it's like we can adapt and survive better as we're moving around and not stuck in one location, because if we're just stuck in one location, it's more like we're almost like stagnating, right? We're like in one position. Everybody knows where we are, like other tribes know where we are, right? And so they can easily attack us. They can easily track us down, right? If we're just in one place. But if you're constantly moving and building momentum and, you know, generating that, it's like it's more difficult to catch you in a
Of
sense.
course.
It's like,
But isn't that exactly what the IMC motto stands for? Be the best, fuck the rest. It's the living in the motto. I am not here to make friends. I'm here to be the best and fuck the rest. And if you take it from the individual to the tribe, it then becomes, as a leader, I am the best. And everyone that's not part of my tribe can go fuck themselves.
Ryan, could you just move your head a little bit so we can see the IMC logo?
Which one? Let me see.
Yeah,
Let's see.
okay. So guys, as you see over there, right? Like there is a wheel, right? That's describing. That's so funny. So like basically that wheel is momentum. It's generating some kind of energy, right? Of movement, of constantly moving. And the one just above it, the tent, is wherever you go, that is your home, right? So that's that idea of like, you know, I don't need for this to be my home. I can go live in, you know, somewhere random, like in the woods or in a forest or wherever I put my head down, that's where I could sleep. And it's just this wonderful nomad or flow mad, right, quality where you can just go from one place to another. And yeah, I think the IMC crest really describes that concept of momentum and movement culture right there, you know. And it's that ants, right? The ants around it as well, the tribe of you don't have to be like a game show host, bro. On this corner we have, you know. But yeah, and I think there's a red dragon underneath, right? I always thought that was just the ground, right?
I thought it was a cow for months.
Yeah, man. A cow.
I thought it was a cow. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a red dragon holding it up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, powerful.
A
Man.
dragon.
A dragon.
A dragon, yeah. But yeah, originally I think it's red, right? The crest.
I don't remember what the dragon stands for. So wasn't that the symbology of chaos?
I'm not too sure, but maybe it could be linked to, you know, the guy, the man, Sammy Joe of San Jose. He's known as the Red Dragon as well. He's a, you know, top level guy, top level gangster. Kudos to you, sir, if you're listening right now.
It would be funny if he would be listening, but who knows?
We never know, man. These things could be documented, you know, years into the future. You know, anything can happen, honestly. Like with also notice that it's called cancel culture, right? Like canceling.
That's a movement still. That's a movement still. It's the movement of destroying people's property, livelihoods. It's still a movement.
Exactly. So yeah, just because you have a movement culture doesn't make it very positive, right? It's like that's by making it something more directive and transformational and, you know, a service-based thing. I think that takes an extra level of logic and ethics and, you know, principles and structure to actually make it happen, right? Because in this group IMC Nation, we have basically been taught, or you could say nurtured, in a way to respect ethics code,
you
know, principles.
Ethics code according to, let's say, Stoicism. God damn it. Stoic. This isn't working. So basically what I'm holding up here is a book called The Art of Living. One of the many Stoic books that we read within the IMC tribal
Epictetus.
Epictetus, exactly. Interpreted by Sharon LaBelle, if anyone wants to buy this book. Now, this Stoicism is also a movement culture, but more so from the thought becomes the movement. Because let's say an event happens, I consciously decide what I do with my reaction to it. For instance, someone makes an administrative mistake, I can get pissed off or stay calm and focus on what is practical. Okay, fine, I have to wait a week before I get my money. Can I wait a week? Fine. I'll allow myself to be a bit annoyed. but I refuse to get angry because it's a waste of time. And then through that action, you start to build character. And through the character building, you get more movement because people start to see you change. And through the change, people get inspired, and through inspiration, they act accordingly. And hopefully, they can go through their own creative process. Because let's face it, within the IMC community, more specifically the Brotherhood, each and every one of us, even though we follow the same process, have such different obstacles to go through that evidently we become totally different persons, people, champions, masters, to the point that I don't even recognize myself from half a year ago. And the same goes for all of you. And because of that change, that positive change, the change that seems to work very well, we now have closure bonds because we've been through that pain. Now let's talk a bit about cancel culture. They somehow feel entitled, better than, etc., etc. Low battery, be right back. Now that's a movement too. There's no energy, the battery dies.
For sure, bro. Man, I'm just thinking about this idea of when you're doing something, you want to make sure that it's matching your values, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, let's say that, oh, Tariq, he's teleported into the jungle. But yeah, basically, like, let's say that you're doing a bunch of things for your business, right? Oh, I'm doing blockchain. Oh, I'm doing, drop shipping. Oh, I'm doing this, the other thing. And you make a list of all the things you're doing, trying to make money. Now, write out a list of your values: fun, authenticity, courage, discipline, humor, whatever, justice, right? All these different ones. And you ask yourself, like, how am I being humorous with blockchain? You know what I mean? It's like, how am I adding fun to dropshipping, right? And you start to see a disconnect, and you're like, wait, what I'm doing doesn't match my values, right? So when you're creating a culture for yourself, you want to make sure that your values are almost like a spider's web connected to the activities that you're doing, right? That create revenue, or whatever, in that case, income, right? So yeah, that's a really important element of a culture, I think, is the idea of virtues and values. And Stoicism, we have these 4 virtues. I have them big up on my wall because I've almost classified them like as love flow, focus flow, cash flow, and creative flow, right? So love flow is courage, focus flow is moderation, cash flow is justice, and creative flow is wisdom, right? So that's kind of how I've classified them or categorized them. And then I have 2 avatars or 2 characters for each one. So for love, I have Space Dandy and Doctor Strange, right? So my game is very trippy. My game is very, it slows time down. It fucking, it uses those characters. So to create a movement culture, you also want to ask yourself, like, what are the different characters you're being inspired by? Like, for instance, I have Larry Ellison up there too. Now, Larry Ellison, he's a guy who drank carrot juice every single morning. When I heard that, I started drinking carrot juice just because he's a billionaire. Like, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I wasn't like, oh, this is a logical, I was just like, this guy's doing it, I'm going to try it out. So for an entire, like, 2 weeks, I was drinking carrot every morning, so it's just a fun, inspiration in a sense. AZD mentioned it in his Clubhouse thing where he's like, where do you pay money? I pay money to people I'm inspired by, right? And it's that's the thing about the movement culture, is that it's that energy of inspiration in spirit, right? Yeah, you're like, yeah. Awesome.
All right. Seeing how we're almost at the hour, let's talk about why would someone need to create, assuming positive, a movement culture, and how would you create it? Now, how I would create is very simple. To bring in positive change in the world, I need to start with myself, Mahatma Gandhi. And from that, inspire people, support people, teach them, possibly even get paid. And thereby, welcome to the Flow Zone Academy. You're part of the academy now. People start promoting you. You start being invited to events. People start to hear about you. You will be challenged. That's fine, as part of the course. And because you're in the minds of the community, whatever that community may be, you create your own. Even if they're still on the fences, let's say. And by showing up daily, people will engage more. People will ask questions. Conversations will open up. And through the engagement, through a transaction of energies, let's say, there's now a system being developed. And then you have a business, a tribe, a movement. Because without intention and transaction, and of course results, there can be no movement. Sumit, you're writing notes.
Yeah, my ending notes are just, from Ito's definition of just this cultural, well, think of it like a renaissance, right? In a sense, like it's almost like movement culture represents a paradigm shift in physicality, right? That's kind of how he describes it. So we want to move away from fitness and health and aesthetics and, performance and art being different clusters of their own and bring them all together. Right. So that's kind of this idea of integration, right? So it's like, yeah, it can be a performance as well as aesthetic. It can be art as well as movement based, very practical, very functional, right? It can be strength training, but it can also, be, nutrition based. We can start to add and find overlaps between different areas to create new styles, new movements, new genres. So we've got to be DJs of our own craft and start to get knowledgeable about a few different areas. That's what the polymath is, right? The Renaissance man is the one that is a master in many different areas. Like you see AZD, I think he's an incredible example of a polymath, how he's dominated different industries of martial arts, of pickup, of communication, of wealth, right? All these different areas he's starting to cluster into. And he did that by combining his different interests together, right? Like his comic book interest with, anime, with like all these different, things clustering up. And I think that we just have to be more conscious of what we really enjoy doing and start to find the overlaps and the jigsaw pieces between all of them. So yeah, that's my ending notes. Definitely give us a follow, guys. I'll drop the Instagrams in the video link. So yeah, that way people can follow us. Join us next Sunday as well for our next Genius Days. We're ending day 3 of Beast Camp, so that's exciting as well. Have an incredible day. May you never be the same again, and be the best. Fuck the rest. Let's get it.